evening. It's my pleasure, privilege to introduce the Star Trek Continues documentary panel. So we're graced with Eric, who's the producer, Chris, the director, and they brought along the camera person and music. And so they're going to speak to you about their project, the documentary, with Star Trek Continues, and then we actually get to screen the film. So go ahead and pass it off to Chris.
Yeah, sure. Do we have mics?
Yep, they're in front of you. They're live.
All right. Now, this documentary does take place at Star Trek Continues, but the larger idea here is it's a Star Trek documentary, more like through the lens of Star Trek Continues. These are people that love Star Trek. We thought we should speak to some experts, because our voices aren't so great. I guess another, thank you. Anything else?
So
Yeah, let's just play the movie and then we can talk about it.
and then will you take some questions from
Absolutely,
the audience?
yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and screen the film, and then we'll do a Q&A after. If you had to choose, right, and now you have to choose, which one is your favorite series, right? So if you were a big fan of Voyager, right, you raise your hand. Remember, our Trek director is Ensign Kim. Okay. DS9, all right, that's like your favorite. Okay. The Next Generation, right, if I had to choose. Right? And then look at Ginger. She got half up there, right? Star Trek Continues. She has to pick two. All right. And of course, there's the original series, right? Okay. Just to give you guys an idea of who you have in the room. Okay. What's that? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Enterprise, it really does count, okay? Even though technically it doesn't, it's the only series, right, that doesn't say Star Trek Enterprise, right? All the other ones are Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Next Generation. Enterprise is truly
Enterprise did not get enough chance. They cut it too soon.
You think? Okay. Actually, I kind of like it, you know? But I like J-Link Blaylock too, right? Yeah. So Enterprise, it does count. Right? It does count. Okay. All right.
Yeah, Enterprise.
We got a question already. I feel like we should just go for it.
Okay. Right. So questions.
This is the first time I've heard of you guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering, for example, how much work have you done? How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, I guess Eric and I, we kind of started this group. I don't even know if these are on or not.
Yeah, I got to put it back up. All right. Now you can back
All right. Eric, the producer, and I started this little group 5 years ago. I have no idea. And this group as a whole is more about 2 years ago. Eric and I have probably put 15 movies together, maybe.
You went to college.
Yeah. And you can find us on IMDb.
Okay.
Star Trek, you can look at all our stuff. But as a group, I guess we've just made, is it just 2 movies together? The Star Stuff Cinema, we did a musical, and that's actually how we got our foot in the door with Star Trek Continues.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to thank you for the question?
Oh, that's me.
Just curious for the whole group of you, what if any difficulties did you face while, I guess, planning and executing the filming, and I guess how did you resolve them? And that's my question.
Filmmaking is always a nightmare. That's to start with. So Eric and I, we've been making movies for, like I was saying, 5 years, done so many movies together, and as we're wrapping up a movie, we always start talking about our next movie. The thing about presenting a movie at a convention or a film festival is that's when people are interested. So you got to have your next movie already planned. And inevitably, we're talking ideas. It gets late tonight, and it just turns into, remember that episode of Star Trek? We've been doing that for years, just wasting time. And what happened was we were going after a film grant in South Carolina, and we got turned down for this several times. And we're going for it again this year, and we decided to come up with a movie that was big enough to where we couldn't do it if we didn't get the grant. We wanted something a little risky, and of course we got turned down. And so we're thinking of ideas like, you know, we have all this creative film energy ready to just go and do something. What can we do that isn't like giant, that doesn't take a crew of 20 people, 30 people, giant, you know, multiple cameras? And we're thinking documentary. We had actually never done one together. And Star Trek is absolutely where our hearts were. And since we were already crunched for time, and we waste so much time talking about Star Trek, we were like halfway done with production.
It's true.
But I guess to get back on track of difficulties, so we had the idea to do a Star Trek documentary, and we had no idea where to start. We had no foot in the door whatsoever. But I had remembered that maybe 6 months prior, when our musical came out, a producer on Star Trek Continues contacted us. He said a simple line, just a sentence. Love the movie, great to see that you guys are doing cool stuff in South Carolina. And of course, you know, if a Star Trek person says anything to you, you remember it for the rest of your life. And we just took a risk, you know, contacted him out of the blue, hey, do you remember us? And didn't hear a thing for a week, and I got a phone call, and he's like, wow, you want to do something Star Trek? I want to talk to you right now. And we met him, and he said, we're filming in a month. Can you figure it out? And we lied to him. We said yes. Do you want to continue this?
Yeah, I think the difficulty is just having a month or so to come up with a movie and to figure out how to fund it. And so, I mean, you may have seen that we had Kickstarter help. So we had a lot of really great people that helped us with that. That was very difficult to get ready in time. And then you're working with limitations in film all the time, so that's definitely.
One of the interesting things about the Kickstarter is after our meeting, we had to put the Kickstarter together in, you know, a couple of days, and the Kickstarter would take a month. And the day that it ended, we left for Star Trek Continues. We had no idea if it would be successful or not. We said it would be. And even the Kickstarter money doesn't get to you until a month or two later. And so, it was a real risk ordering all the equipment. You got to order it weeks ahead of time, and we pushed it as far as we could to make sure that we would get the money. And that meant, you know, some stuff we had to get from different locations, and we just had to mix match it, and we didn't get everything we wanted. Some of the stuff that we got in the mail was broken, and we had to redesign our movie. Something else that was interesting is, so we were working late into the night on the Kickstarter night, and I think by the time we finished all our pre-production stuff, we opened all our boxes, put all the camera gear together, we made sure it all worked, we did an inventory, we wrote down what came from what state and all this kind of stuff, and tried to stash it away even though we were, you know, tired, had been sleeping for days. We knew we would forget when we came back, so we worked until about 20 minutes until we had to leave. And we forgot to eat, and we had a pizza in the freezer.
Yeah.
And that's what we did instead of sleeping. We took a vote. Are we going to take a 20-minute nap? Are we going to take a shower? Are we going to eat pizza?
You gotta eat pizza.
We still talk about that pizza.
How did you assemble the crew? Was it just friends? Did you advertise? How did that happen?
Well, we found our good friend Daniel Machado here on the end. And someone we had worked with on our musical. He's a singer-songwriter, music extraordinaire.
Just had an album release, by the way, last week.
Plug.
Danny Joe.
And he's someone that on these late night hangouts, we talk about Star Trek with this guy all the time. So we knew he would be interested, and luckily, of course, he was. He heard the Enterprise was calling, and he wanted to go. So that's how we found Daniel. Kristlyn is somebody that
I met them on a feature film set in 2013, and they showed me some of their films, and I was really impressed, and I wanted to be their friend. So
That film, by the way, America the Movie, one of the worst movies of 2013.
we worked on it.
So, going back to difficulties, you know, this is a emotional roller coaster that never ends. We drive straight down to Georgia from not sleeping to eating our pizza to directly into shooting. We had an interview we wanted to get. The guy was flying out, and 20 minutes after we got there. So we got into the building, and the producer that was our contact met us on the way in. We waved to him. He asked us how we were doing. We said it was great. And we thought we were on top of the world, and we're in Star Trek land, and we're about to meet one of our heroes. So we took the interview. We got him out of there, and then we actually kind of got kicked out. Nobody knew who we were except for the producer, and what we didn't understand was he was on his way out. He had an emergency, and he sent emails to all the appropriate people. But they're shooting, 14 hours a day, 16 hours even sometimes. And of course, no one got that email, and we were party crashers for a while there. We were not allowed to shoot, and so we had to redesign our movie. One of the things about Continues is, these are people that are just pouring everything they have into make this show, and that's not the resources that you would expect from a show of this size. And the lighting grid is something that is just not up to like a studio standard. They're putting it together with all the love that they have, and they can't light more than one set at a time. And so our original concept, which had always been shifting since we planned it a month ago, we're still working it out. But we wanted to give life to the Enterprise. We wanted to speak about it as a character, the ship that we all, I think, have some sort of attachment to, something that carries over through multiple series. And we couldn't do that. The sets that we wanted were no longer available by the time that we were really allowed to shoot. So we had to do what I said that we would never do, which is shoot a talking head documentary. That's entirely the movie.
Something that we had planned on a solid 3 days of filming turned into more of a day and a half. So it was not what we had planned, and we spent many a night eating pizza in our hotel, crammed together, figuring out what our new story was going to be. And luckily, everybody at Star Trek Continues helped facilitate a great discussion, and they gave some terrific answers.
I would love some more questions. We got one right here. Is that Malcolm Reynolds?
So what kind of camera equipment did you use for this, and what were your suppliers?
For our camera, we used a GH4, and then we rented some equipment, and luckily I was in film school at the time, and they donated some equipment, so that's also how we funded the movie at the time. And you want to speak about some of the other equipment?
So yeah, we had 2 Panasonic GH4s, DSLR cameras, A-cam, B-cam. We rented those from lensrentals.com, I believe. So plug to them. Congratulations. And Bar Lenses, to be fair to them.
One of those people don't deserve a plug.
No. HDMI in did not work. And then we had some lighting instruments. We had light panel 1x1 lights, good old Zoom H4n audio recorder, and Daniel wrangled that along with some other boom mic kind of accessories that we got from those websites.
Do you do filmmaking?
A little bit. Something I want to get more into, but I'm always interested in hearing about what type of equipment people, because there's so much you can just walk into a Best Buy, right, and you get feature quality material.
Most of what we had would be available at Best Buy. Maybe not the lights, but otherwise, yeah.
Or the GH4?
On the website.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions? Let's take it right here. December?
Late December.
It was December, yeah.
Yeah, late December. I think it was around the 19th. We were there about 3 days. Yeah.
We had another question.
Question for Daniel. What were you going for with the musical score? Like, how do you wrap your head around making music for a movie that's not a direct copy of music everybody already knows, but still fits the feel of the film?
Well, I wanted it to stay out of the way when it needed to. It needed to feel very positive, and tried to use horns. Star Trek is horns, but tried to work in some strings as well, and tried to give everybody a theme to a certain extent. Larry, who did the kind of flawless retelling of that scene, and that was an accident in that, well, it wasn't an accident on his part. The guys, when they were editing, realized that it synced perfectly to that scene. And they just recorded him just doing the scene in the interview, and then when they started lining up the video, it was a perfect match. But tried to give him a little extra theme, and I got my friend Sean, who plays Django Reinhardt style guitar and all kinds of great guitar work, to ask him if he would do a rendition of the theme for the credits. So
The little jingle at the end there?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not like Django.
yeah, he's a fantastic guitarist, and he sent me that as a recording off of his phone and said, I don't know if this is right yet. And I said, yeah, that's it. That's it. He said, this is a crappy demo. And I just ended up using it exactly as it was because it already sounded perfect to me. But it's tough with Star Trek. You want it to feel familiar, but stay out of the way and not violate any copyrights.
Yeah, it was really important, as much as we could, to make this our own thing, stay within fair use. With documentaries, you have a little more leeway about what Star Trek images you use, because the concept is if you're taking something that's out there that has copyright and that you're talking about it in such a way that like takes the original series footage and gives it new context, that's similar to creating new content. So that's how you get away from like copyright and stuff. Something like music is obviously that's just a straight ripoff, so you need to produce that. Got any? Yeah.
I'm also kind of curious, what does it feel like to walk onto the Enterprise?
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, we were all there the moment that you walk on there. I think it was Royal, one of the set builders.
Royal Weaver.
He says it best, like when you enter the Enterprise for the first time, you are the age that you were when you first saw the Enterprise. So I was 7 years old. That's how it felt, you know. It was room after room, and the first time that we saw the Enterprise, it was actually during a lunch break, because obviously they're filming there. We can't go in there when they're filming and ruin their audio. So when we had our time, it was during lunch break, and we were trying as hard as we could to use that time wisely to get those bridge shots that you saw. We didn't have a lot of time to waste. We were going room to room and saying, oh, look, this is the greatest thing ever. Gotta go to the next room. And you just keep going. You can't really soak